When I was a kid, like probably pre-teens, I went to see the Iron Man movie with my parents and my younger brother. At the time, I had only watched certain shows like Avengers Assemble, so I didn't really know much about superheroes, but I knew that I really enjoyed them. Watching Iron Man for the first time was new to me because, unlike my parents, I didn't really grow up on live action TV shows or even certain live action movies like the Christopher Reeves Superman. All that to say, I kind of grew up with the MCU, and because of that, I think I have enough legitimacy to talk about how Marvel is embarrassingly dead.
Roll credits.
But before I get into that, I just wanted to let you guys know that I have shut down my merch store for my YouTube channel, and instead I have launched a new merch store of uplifting apparel for people that are recovering from mental health and trauma like myself. You can check it out in the link of the description, and if you use the code NOTLIZZY, you will get 20% off every purchase. Check it out. So I thought today, instead of doing what a lot of other people have already done of dissections of why Phase 4 of Marvel is bad or how we even got here in the first place and yada yada yada, I figured I'd try to be more positive in my life, but also in this video by talking about the Marvel films that I enjoyed growing up, as well as reminiscing on the good times of the MCU. Again, I grew up with Iron Man, and even though I don't really have good memory of my childhood because of trauma, I do remember sitting in the movie theater and just being totally hooked in with Marvel films. Up until that point, you only had films like the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight series that took superheroes in live action film more seriously instead of the more corny TV shows like Batman, Wonder Woman, Hulk, etc. So in many ways, I feel that we should all be somewhat grateful for the Iron Man movie because not only did it set the foundation for the MCU, but in many ways it revamped Robert Downey Jr.'s career. And most importantly, I also give credit to Robert Downey Jr. for very much bringing Tony Stark to life and making him a very interesting character, having explored the idea of a superhero who reveals his identity so quickly in his story arc.
I am Iron Man.
Was very different from what we were used to with characters like Batman and Superman from DC. Of course, there are certain Marvel characters, both in the comics and the MCU, who try or overall do keep their identity a secret. But Iron Man was different. Next up is Captain America Winter Soldier. And yes, I am going out of order. It's my video. With Captain America Winter Soldier, there was a lot of great things about that film. I honestly think it's still one of Marvel's best films. And in many ways, not only did it make Captain America a more kick-ass and understandable Avenger instead of just an all-American boy, but it also in many ways revamped Chris Evans' career and made him a better, interesting actor to see on screen. And not only that, but it had probably one of the biggest twists in the MCU of Hydra being basically S.H.I.E.L.D. or infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D., which isn't at all realistic to real life, our government, and certain people of certain origins that may or may not rhyme with Harmony and Yahtzees.
It's Operation Paperclip after World War II. S.H.I.E.L.D. recruited German scientists.
Humanity needed to surrender its freedom willingly.
Swappies! Coronavirus! Coronavirus!
Humanity is finally ready to sacrifice its freedom to gain its security.
Don't say that.
Hydra's new world order will arise.
What convinced you of your theory?
Well,
What started to happen was they just started saying it publicly in front of cameras.
What we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.
Anyway, I think it's a really great film, and it also introduced us to the gorgeous Sebastian Stan playing Bucky Barnes officially as the Winter Soldier, and him having a very more significant impact not only on the story for Captain America singular specifically, but also in the overall MCU going forward when it came to movies like Civil War. Next up is Thor. I personally feel that Thor, the first one, is probably the best one out of the three. And unlike some people who are coming to realize that Taika Waititi, who I call one-hit Waititi,
Boom. Roasted.
yeah, he kind of was a bit over his head, I think, with Thor 3. And now what I've heard of Thor 4.
Working hard and also a lot of movie magic.
Damn, boy, he's thick!
How much did you, what did you eat and how much?
Well, I'm vegan, which is like a whole separate kind.
These are the eyes of a psychopath.
I liked the first Thor movie because, unlike what we had already seen so far, Thor was different because he was a god. You had Tony, who was a bazillionaire, and you had Cap, who was the all-American boy. And now you had Thor, who was a god. Of course, I'm putting this slightly out of order, but you get the point. And what I really liked about the fact that Thor was a god is that many things are usually connected to that in mythology, which is elegance, reverence, regality, and a lot of other things that you wouldn't necessarily connect with a superhero film. I also liked the fact that unlike certain films nowadays, especially with female characters like Captain Marvel,
Is that like a personal attack?
Yes!
you had a character like Thor who learned the importance of humility and humanity.
You are unworthy of these realms. You're unworthy of your title. You're unworthy.
And most importantly, you had the introduction to Marvel's probably best written villain, Loki. And not only that, but Loki, unlike the other villains that we had seen previously in Marvel films like Obadiah, Red Skull, whatever, Loki had such a significant impact not only in the Thor films, but the MCU and the viewers as well. And we give all that credit to the amazing and underrated Tom Hiddleston, who I'm pretty sure should fire his agent because he's been attached to projects that have not helped his reputation despite being very talented. Next up is Guardians of the Galaxy. Up until this point, Marvel had started to find its groove and also started to have its typical formulaic formula that we now just know is a disaster and its own worst enemy. But up until that point, we kind of were not quite used to a more properly fleshed out comedy of sorts. But Guardians of the Galaxy changed that. Not only was it funny, but it was funky and it was very compelling with its characters, which most of the characters aren't even human. And as I will keep saying with these films, Guardians of the Galaxy revamped Chris Pratt's career as an actor and also his physicality. And no, I'm not making fun of his body. I still like him in Parks and Rec. He's very talented.
Oh, I guess while you get your medicine, I'll just stroll through the candy aisles, but won't get any.
You can buy 2 candies.
2?
Not only did Guardians of the Galaxy do something that was very special and unique and probably could never be quite replicated even from James Gunn himself, I do love the fact that not only is it an ensemble cast that are mostly all well written, but it introduced us to one of the most well written female characters in Marvel, which is Gamora. And it introduced us to probably the second best written villain in MCU, which is Nebula. And no, I'm not going to bring up Killmonger because he is not a well-written Marvel villain, but we'll get to that in another video where I get to cancel myself.
These items aren't for sale.
How do you think your ancestors got these? You think they paid a fair price? Or did they take it like they took everything else?
Oh my God, corny, lame, boo, tomato, 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 I'm throwing tomatoes.
There's a lot of other movies within the MCU that I enjoyed and I appreciate them even more now, despite being very much detached, if not dissociated, of the current phase of the MCU and also my life. I have not really watched any of the MCU movies of recent, up until Spider-Man No Way Home. Speaking of, Spider-Man Homecoming, in my personal opinion, is also one of my favorite Marvel films. And yes, I'm aware that MJ is a redhead and not a mixed black woman who has a beautiful name of Zendaya. However, I am a stan of Tom and Zendaya, so I excuse it.
Just so you know.
Yeah, just so you know. I pretend to do something, but I didn't want the world to be like, Tom Holland tries to hit Zendaya.
No, not like...
One of the best things about playing MJ is getting to work with Tom Holland.
Yes.
But I also do agree that too many redheads of characters have been replaced and portrayed by black women, and I am not a fan of it at all. I very much defend the redheads, which is why I'm always trying to dye my hair red. It needs to be re-dyed. Nonetheless, I do like Spider-Man Homecoming. I love that it is more down to earth, not really exposed to this bigger galactic scale, but more of a coming of age, high school, comedy, drama, romance type action film, if you want to call it. And I personally enjoy Tom Holland as Spider-Man, although I do feel that my favorite Spider-Man is actually Andrew Garfield, and I will die on that hill.
Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay?
Oh my god, even though from oh my god.
I say all that to say that there are various other Marvel films that I like or I just don't dislike, and some of those would be Civil War, Black Panther, Ant-Man, and so on. Especially Ant-Man because it's representation of a misunderstood but overall decent father who loves his daughter and learns to kind of step up to bat to be a better man through being a superhero and also a father. I think is very beautiful and not represented enough in media. A lot of times fathers are kind of beaten up in media and in stories, and I feel like Ant-Man, at least the first one, does not do that, and so that much I very much appreciate, and I also think it's a pretty funny film. Anyway, as I keep sidetracking and not focusing on concluding this video, I say all this to say that I haven't watched Phase 4 up until recently, which was the whole purpose of this video, to quickly talk about the fact that I had watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It was by accident. My family was watching it, and I happened to be spending time with them in the living room. They turned it on when we still had Disney Plus, and they watched it, and oh my god, that is when I realized that Marvel is embarrassingly dead.
Roll credits.
And it's not just the CGI, the lack of respect for Doctor Strange in his own film. Scarlet Witch getting away again with trying to genocide, if not severely hurt and torture people under the guise of she's a victim, and so on and so forth. And who is this America Ferrera? And who is this? And why is Wong the Sorcerer Supreme? And this is garbage. And oh my god, that's CGI. And oh my god, Scarlet Witch, shut up and sit down somewhere. Your argument makes no sense at all.
Raw power could wreak havoc on this and other worlds. Her sacrifice would be for the greater good.
Well, you can kiss the lunchbox goodbye, because that's the kind of justification our enemies use.
Is it the one you used when you gave Thanos the Time Stone?
Stop! Spare his life, and I will give you the stone.
No tricks.
Tony, there was no other way. Is that everyone?
Like you wanted war? It wasn't war, and I did what I had to do.
You break the rules and become a hero. I do it and I become the enemy. That doesn't seem fair.
No.
All of this other stuff that There comes a time in your life where you think you're aware of a situation. You think you're aware of how bad it is, no matter how dissociated you are from it, no matter how detached you are from it. But then reality really slaps you in the face, and then you fully absorb the situation. And that's what happened when I watched Doctor Strange 2. I had not seen Black Widow. I had not seen Eternals. I had not seen the Marvel TV shows. I had not seen any of it. I had honestly tapped out after Captain Marvel and Endgame because, again, it's best to stop before you get to this point. But nonetheless, I happened to watch Doctor Strange, and it really just showed me that Marvel is not what it was.
There is no passion, there is no vision, there is no aggression, there is no fucking mindset.
And honestly, I really hope that it stops, but I also know it won't. Unfortunately, we are in the twilight era of superhero films, and until another genre comes along to finally put it to rest, we are stuck here, seeing this sludge continue to come out of Hollywood, while the rest of us are worried about gas prices and whether or not we are about to go into the Walking Dead levels of apocalypse. It's great.
2 shots of vodka.
So, in officially ending this video, I will say that I did enjoy Marvel, and I think it should have stopped after Phase 3. I think most people nowadays need to learn a lesson from shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender. And yes, I'm wearing my Aang t-shirt. Aang gang. But anyway, most people should learn from that show that you should go in with a really good outline, what you want to do for the story, and then stop. Marvel had a somewhat decent sketch of an outline for the first 3 phases. And I say somewhat because they should have had already characters like Black Widow, Captain Marvel, the Eternals, and so on already have their origin story in Phase 1 or 2. But they didn't. And also other characters like Shang-Chi and whatnot. They should have also had their stories so that by the time Endgame came, they would also be a part of the fight in some way, shape, or form. But that didn't happen. And now Marvel is retconning its own universe. It's eating its own self alive. If they stopped at Phase 3, it would have been great. And it would have been something to truly look back on with respect, enjoyment, and overall positivity.
Not gonna happen! No, not gonna happen!
But nowadays, with not only pandering, the fighting, the divisiveness, and overall lazy writing, Marvel is worse than DC to a certain extent. And as I said in my comedic pop culture podcast with my brother, which you can check out here, or here.
Right, and you'll eat our sloppy garbage, you peasants, while you fill our wallets. We don't have to give you good art anymore. You just see a superhero and you guys have spasms. We don't have to do work. You just have to put your butt in the theater or pay for our streaming service, you peasant, you stupid peasant.
You buffoon.
Marvel should have stopped a long time ago, but they didn't, and now we're here. So again, I ask you to stop watching their stuff and let them learn their lesson, because Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, all of them, they need to just die.
Fire is catching. And if we burn, you burn with us.
I'm not sure what will replace superheroes as the new genre of films, the new trend. Maybe it'll be westerns that aren't monopolized by the Daily Wire. Or maybe it'll be mobster films again that aren't monopolized by Martin Scorsese. Or maybe it'll be decent dark fantasy stories, unlike Henry Cavill barely holding on to The Witcher.
What was like...
Whatever it is, let me know in the comments below what you think the genre might be. That'll hopefully lay Marvel to a beautiful grave of rest. Please. I am slowly concluding my Twilight journey of reacting to those oh so fun films. By Christmas, you will have a Twilight film of a reaction with my friends. That's right. Merry Christmas. And also, Marvel is embarrassingly dead.
Roll credits.
Have you ever had a dream that you had
and unlike some people who are coming to realize that
I got stuff going on. Stuff going on you don't know about.
Unfortunately,